Eastern Anatolia, a land defined by high plateaus, volcanic peaks, and formidable geographical barriers, is more than just Turkey's eastern frontier. It is the forgotten historical gateway. We often trace Islam's reach into Europe through Iberia or the Balkans, yet this rugged region was the initial, most violent, and ultimately most successful crucible for the expansion into what was once the heartland of the Byzantine Empire. Its geography ensured that it was perpetually a battleground, a liminal space between empires, but also a critical spiritual and cultural conduit. Understanding the history forged here is essential to grasping how the Islamic world eventually encircled Constantinople and laid the foundations for the Ottoman superpower that would define Eastern European history for centuries.
Centuries before the great Turkish migrations, the early Islamic caliphates, the Umayyads and Abbasids, already recognized the strategic necessity of controlling this region. Cities like Melitene and Erzurum became the formidable fugor, or military marches, forming a contested, militarized border zone with Byzantium. This was not a passive frontier. It was a perpetual state of raids, counter-raids, and cultural exchange enforced by iron and fire. The constant pressure exerted here weakened Byzantine defenses and established enduring cultural contact points, laying the groundwork for the later, more definitive demographic shift. These early incursions, though often temporary, provided vital intelligence and established routes that later Turkish groups would exploit with devastating efficiency.
The year 1071 marks the irrefutable pivot point, the Battle of Manzikert. While perhaps not the largest military engagement of the era, it's catastrophic for Byzantium and revolutionary for the Islamic world. The Seljuk Turks, under Sultan Alp Arslan, crushed the imperial army, capturing the emperor himself. This victory didn't just win a battle, it shattered the regional balance of power. Crucially, Manzikert opened the floodgates, turning Eastern Anatolia from a contested buffer into a permanent homeland for Turkic tribes. The subsequent establishment of powerful, semi-independent Muslim beyliks across the plateau directly led to the permanent fragmentation of Byzantine authority and accelerated the Islamization process, making the later siege of Constantinople inevitable.
Following Manzikert, various Turkic dynasties, known as beyliks, swiftly consolidated their power in the vacuum. Dynasties like the Seljukids, based in Erzurum, and the Artukids, further south, established sophisticated Islamic governance structures. These were not mere warlords, they were state builders who invested heavily in infrastructure. They transformed former Byzantine centers into thriving Islamic urban hubs, blending Turkic military traditions with established Persianate bureaucracy. Their rapid success in state formation here, far from the Seljuk center in Persia, demonstrates the region's newfound stability and strategic importance. It was these local powers that truly cemented the long-term Islamic presence, acting as crucial precursors to the unified Ottoman state centuries later.
The lasting testament to this foundational era is preserved in stone. Eastern Anatolia became an architectural canvas, witnessing the creation of unique Islamic structures designed to function in harsh environments. The majestic Çifte Minareli Medrese in Erzurum, or the intricate stonework of the Divri Great Mosque and Hospital, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, exemplify the Seljuk synthesis. These buildings were not only centers of worship or learning, but also political declarations, asserting the permanence of the new rulers. Furthermore, the ubiquitous development of caravanserais along trade routes connected this region to Persia, the Caucasus, and ultimately the Black Sea ports, turning this strategic borderland into an economically vibrant interchange, facilitating the flow of goods and Islamic ideas outwards.
Just as the region found stability, external forces intervened dramatically. The Mongol invasions of the 13th century destabilized the entire Islamic world, and Eastern Anatolia was no exception. The Battle of Köseda in 1243 subjected the Seljuk Sultanate to Mongol Ilkhanate vassalage. While devastating, this period was paradoxical. The Mongols brought destruction but also reorganized trade and administration, often utilizing local Muslim scholars and bureaucrats. Crucially, the collapse of central authority allowed the smaller, marginal beyliks, including the ancestors of the Ottomans, to strengthen their positions, sheltered from the direct Mongol gaze. The chaotic Mongol interlude inadvertently incubated the forces that would eventually unify Anatolia under a single Islamic banner.
The Ottoman Empire, having emerged from Western Anatolia, recognized the critical need to fully control the East. By the 16th century, especially after the clashes with the Safavid Empire of Persia, Eastern Anatolia became indispensable. Sultan Selim I and later Suleiman the Magnificent fought to secure this high ground, making cities like Van and Erzurum essential military and administrative headquarters. Control of Eastern Anatolia meant not only securing the empire's eastern flank against Shia Persia, but also controlling the critical routes leading north into the Caucasus, a territory vital for recruitment and strategic depth. This incorporation transformed the region from a fragmented frontier into the robust eastern bulwark of a global Islamic empire, providing the resources necessary for further expansion into southeastern Europe.
Beyond military and political structures, Eastern Anatolia played a profound role in propagating Islamic spirituality. The Sufi orders, particularly the Naqshbandi and Qadiri, found deep roots here, using the region as a launching pad for missionary efforts. The spiritual infrastructure established by revered saints and mystics connected the urban centers with the remote tribal communities of the Caucasus and Kurdistan. These Sufi networks were cultural pipelines, translating complex Islamic doctrine into local vernaculars and integrating new populations into the broader Muslim community. This soft power transmission was arguably more enduring than any military conquest, forging a cohesive Islamic identity that would later influence Muslim communities far into the Balkans via Ottoman migration routes.
Throughout the early modern period, Eastern Anatolia remained the epicenter of major geopolitical conflicts, solidifying its role as a strategic gateway. It served as the primary staging ground for Ottoman wars against the Russian Empire, particularly during the 18th and 19th centuries. The high-altitude passes and rugged terrain dictated military tactics and supply logistics for both sides. The defense of fortresses like Kars and Erzurum became synonymous with the geopolitical struggle for regional dominance. When European powers looked eastward, they saw not just Anatolian provinces, but the vital bridge connecting the Black Sea to the Middle East, a gateway whose control meant mastery over vast swaths of human movement, trade, and ultimately, imperial power.
This land was not Islamized in a vacuum. It was a complex tapestry of cultures. For millennia, it was home to thriving Armenian, Georgian, and Kurdish populations. The arrival of the Turks and the establishment of Islamic states led to profound cultural exchange and sometimes conflict, but always intermingling. Islamic rule did not erase existing traditions, but layered upon them, creating a syncretic culture reflected in everything from local textile patterns to musical traditions and even certain architectural motifs. Eastern Anatolia's identity is defined by this persistent fusion, a powerful synthesis where the resilience of ancient regional customs met the transformative force of Islamic political and religious identity, creating a unique historical consciousness that is still visible today.
In retrospect, Eastern Anatolia was the essential bridge, the strategic fulcrum that allowed Islamic civilization to move from the Near East and establish a permanent foothold in the Mediterranean and Black Sea basins. It was the training ground where Turkish military and statecraft perfected the methods that would lead to the conquest of the Balkans and the establishment of European provinces. Without the initial, often brutal, and centuries-long effort to secure and Islamatize this high plateau, the geopolitical trajectory of southeastern Europe would have been fundamentally different. This region, often relegated to a historical footnote, deserves recognition as the primary gateway whose sustained transformation made the Islamic presence in Eastern Europe possible and persistent. It is a legacy carved into the mountains and preserved in the stone of its ancient cities.
We conclude our journey in this rugged, historically vital land. Eastern Anatolia remains a testament to the resilience of civilization, a place where geography dictated destiny,
and where Islamic history found one of its most enduring and expansionary footholds. The stories told by its stone monuments and high plateaus offer a corrective to simplified historical narratives, reminding us that the road to global influence often runs through the most difficult terrain. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Islam's forgotten gateway. If you found this historical deep dive valuable, please consider supporting our work.